I thought success was like math, linear and predictable. 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 2 equals 4, and 4 plus 4 equals 8. A leads to B, and B leads to C. You put in effort, you get results. For instance, you study more, you get better grades. With better grades, you get better jobs. And you work longer hours, you get more money. And that's how you get what you want. I thought it was all about optimization and planning, so I became obsessed with being like Sherlock. You know, the brilliant detective who can think multiple steps ahead and control everything. Yes, that was me. If I wanted to, I just have to add 1 plus 1. It's that simple. So I joined the hustle culture, working long hours, micromanaging every part of my life, trying every productivity method under the sun, and optimizing my days down to the minute. And this approach worked quite well initially. I got better grades, landed many job positions. I also finished my bachelor and my master's, even at the competitive business school. And then things fell apart. You see, after I finished my master's degree, I had a plan. It was literally a master plan. I was going to work for 6 months at a tech company, and I would build my startup and raise money for the startup on the side. And if nothing works out, I would try to create my own marketing agency and scale it to high revenue. I have followed ambitious plans before, so I thought I could do it again. But man, I was wrong. Things didn't go as expected. First, I didn't get the job position, and then the startup never took off. And I did create my own marketing agency, but I was rejected over and over just to get my first client. And I tried a lot harder, but the same struggles still persist. And then the pandemic came and destroyed all my plans. My self-esteem took a hit. Everything I believed about success and hard work seemed to crumble before my very eyes. And I thought for myself, this is almost as if I would wake up one day just to realize that 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. It's surprising. It's difficult for me to understand. And this is now what I call the paradox of effort. The harder you try, the less you succeed. Yes, it sounds very counterintuitive. But think about it. The more you try to fall asleep, the more awake you are. Or the more you try to pursue that romantic love, the more she backs off because you seem too desperate. And the more you try to pet a cat, the more it is likely to run away. And lastly, the more you try to make plans and plan for the future, the more surprised you are when things don't pan out as it should. If trying harder wasn't the solution, then what was? And I thought about it for a very long time. And at some point, it just clicked. It was a pivotal moment. That was the time when I watched Kung Fu Panda. Pandas are cool. Kung Fu Panda even better. So sometimes we get the most profound insights from children's movies. For the record, there is a panda, and the panda was chosen as a dragon warrior, but it couldn't even fight. And there was a specific quote that then stood out, which was, "My friend, the panda will never fulfill his destiny, nor yours, until you let go of the illusion of control." The illusion of control? That was powerful. That teaches me that I cannot try to control everything, that I just have to go with the flow. But I still had so much trouble wrapping my head around this concept. Because my role as an entrepreneur is to take action, solve problems, and to make things happen. And letting go of the illusion of control simply implies doing nothing, and it goes against everything I have learned. So I found it really difficult to adopt this mindset. And a few days passed by, maybe in weeks. At some point, I found myself observing ducks. Ducks are really cool, and believe it or not, these animals changed my life. Yes, ducks. They are not as ordinary as they seem. On the surface level, they are calm and collected, but beneath the water, they're paddling like crazy. Watching them made me realize we're not really like ducks. We worry too much about the future. We worry about being perfect, and we don't focus on the present moment. And this revelation led me to create what I now call this duck philosophy. It's a simple yet powerful concept that can change all our lives here. Let me break it down for you. So a duck has 3 body parts. It has calm head, flexible wings, and smart feet. Starting with the head. Ducks are calm. They focus on the present moment. They don't worry about what's on the other side of the pond. They just live their lives. There's no end goal. Flexible wings. Now, ducks are ready to change their direction if they need to. They can even fly. Not so elegantly, but they can. And it teaches us that in life, we need to be able to adapt to new opportunities. Lastly, smart feet. Now, ducks work hard, paddling underwater, but they also know when to take a break. They don't paddle in circle, they also don't fight the current. Now, watching them made me realize that we are not as effortless, and maybe we can be more like them, more carefree, more effortless, enjoying life, playing. And we should strive to strike a balance between taking action and letting go, while trusting that everything will somehow fall into place. So, ducks are gliding effortlessly, and they don't even know where they're going next. And sometimes that can be quite helpful in our life. So let's dive into 3 different situations where trying harder to force an outcome doesn't necessarily lead to better outcomes. Starting with the pressure to perform. Now, you all set goals, and you probably want to achieve it no matter what. But this pressure can lead to burnout or anxiety. It can backfire, and it can also lead to a constant need for perfection. Anyone knows Eminem? I assume most of you probably know. Look, he famously said, "Look, if you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or let it slip?" This sounds very motivational to me, not going to lie. It motivates me a lot when I feel down. But in reality, if we push ourselves so much, that can add too much pressure. I mean, just look at him. Eminem, with all his talents, crumbled under the pressure in the beginning. And just like him, I struggled. I struggled when I first pitched in front of a large audience. And that was particularly because I wanted to make things perfect. I pushed myself a lot, and I overcomplicated the process. And surprisingly, when I didn't really focus so much on the outcome, when I was just myself, embracing the duck philosophy, that's when I performed at my very best. Next is desperation and force. In life, we are not just dealing with ourselves, we're also dealing with other people. And there, we cannot always force the desirable outcome. For instance, in sales or in dating, being too harsh, being too eager, and being too desperate can all push the other person away. And I learned this the hard way. My first 10 to 20 sales meetings were all rejections because probably I was pushing too hard and I wanted to prove myself. But when I was just myself and wanted to connect with other people, and I wanted to understand the problems and how I can help them without pushing for the sale, that's when I made the first sale. Next, and last but not least, it's the obsession with arbitrary goals. We all set goals, and sometimes these goals can be very rigid. For instance, becoming a millionaire by 40, or having 2 kids by 35. And we believe that achieving them would make us happy. But sometimes we need to ask ourselves, are these goals really important to us? Or are we pursuing them because society says so? Sometimes deviating from these plans can even lead to more happiness because life is unpredictable. Imagine planning a trip to Paris and your goal is to visit as many places as possible in only 4 hours. Now this sounds very stressful to me. It's ambitious, you can achieve a lot, you can visit many places. But what if you give yourself the flexibility to deviate from this plan? You might stumble upon a local festival that you like, or you might even go on a coffee date with a person that becomes your next life partner. You never know. Being too fixated on plans would lead us to miss out on this fantastic moment of serendipity, which would ultimately enrich our lives. So I know what you're saying, Terence. Do you say that we don't have to work hard at all or make plans? And I know this very well because I asked these questions before, and now I seem to have the answer now. Yes, you still have to put in the work. You still have to work hard, you still have to plan, but action doesn't equal expectations. We often make our lives very hard by imagining the perfect outcome. But what if we just ditch all these expectations and go with the flow? Let me tell you a little bit more about my life story. So I started to embrace this life philosophy of duck. And believe it or not, things went out quite well. What I did particularly was I stopped micromanaging everything in my life. And most importantly, I stopped caring about the outcome and of what other people thought of me. And still, at the same time, I was working hard, trusted the process, and believed I was lucky. I was assuming I was lucky without having too much expectations. And that really worked well because amazing things started to happen even when I didn't expect them. Later on, I was sponsored a technology scholarship to go to Lisbon, which further propelled my career. I also was named a Forbes 30 under 30, and I created a few successful projects from scratch, impacting people worldwide with technology. My happiness shot up, my creativity as well, and my stress level decreased. It almost felt like a massive weight had been lifted off my shoulder. And I smiled more, which is great. If you want to duplicate the process, that's how you do it. Now, here's the game plan. No forcing, no expectation. Believe in the process, work hard, and don't tie your happiness to arbitrary goals. Be where the duck is. Right amount of effort and low outcome expectations. And that's how you avoid disappointment and burnout. Remember the initial equation, the simple math we had? Yes, 1 + 1 is still 2. But life is way more complex. In reality, The equation is more like 1 plus x equals question mark. And the question mark could be 5, a million, 0. It could be anything. And we can't control it. But what we control is x, the process. So let's just focus on that. Trust the process. So next time you're up against the current, remember the duck philosophy. It's about moving forward without forcing the outcome. Life is about striking balance between paddling hard and going with the flow. It's not about being fixated on some arbitrary numbers. It's about embracing life as an adventure. And with that being said, it's time to rewire our brain. It's time to think like a duck.